Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. I'm Stephanie Fisher. I'm a licensed counselor here in the state of Michigan, and I'm owner and operator of In Progress Counseling. One of the things that can actually be quite stressful to dive into, but it's a really important part of both clinical work and our own kind of interpersonal work. When I have a fear about something like a terror sometimes that like, oh man, what if that person doesn't like me? Or what if that person's annoyed with me? Or what if I've upset that person? That can really be quite jostling for a lot of people. And some people are indifferent to it or they don't care. They're able to easily move through it and dismiss that. But for some people, that's a valid fear. That's an actual fear of like, what if that person doesn't like me? What if that person is upset with me? And often we have to go towards the fear because as someone who is entrusted to walk alongside of people, it's important that we operate in reality, and it's also important that we speak the truth. And so when someone says, oh, what if they don't like me? We step towards that and I say, hey, tell me about that fear. But also, what if they don't like you? What if we find out there's a bona fide understanding, there's a certified letter that's drafted and signed, and someone says, I don't like you? We get to actually hold that together, and we get to wonder, what do I want to do if that's true? Now, it's likely distressing. Very likely we're going to have sensations around that. We might have fear around that. But because we're willing to ask that question of like, hey, what if they don't like you? What if they are upset with you? What do we want to do about that? That's the piece that's so powerful. But to get to that piece of what do we want to do about that, we have to walk towards the distressing thought of, hey, what if they don't like me? What if I'm too much? What if I'm not enough? We walk towards the fear and we say, okay, I'm hearing the fear. Let's talk about it. What if that person genuinely doesn't like you? What do we want to do about that? Do they have the right to not like you? And often we'll have to go through some critical thought around, well, hey, if people have preferences, if people are allowed to say no thank you, if people are to be in healthy relationships, they need to consent to that. We walk through a lot of different ways to get towards the understanding that people actually do have a genuine permission and right to decide that they don't like us, to decide we're not their cup of tea. They don't like us as a package. They don't like what we offer. They don't like what how we present ourselves. They don't like our philosophies and our beliefs. They don't like the shape of our face, or they don't like the color of our glasses, or they don't like. There's a whole host of reasons people might not like us, but we want to walk towards that and say, okay, if someone dislikes me, if someone is upset with me, what do I want to do with that understanding? And once we're allowed to talk about it, we can hold it, and then we start to have options. And we can talk about processes to let that fear show up, and then work on reframing it of course there's people that don't like you. There's people that don't like every other single human. You pick a famous celebrity that's well loved, and you'll also find out they're likely well hated in some domains and in some areas. It's helpful to hold it up and then make some complex decisions around it. Like, oh, if someone doesn't like me, oh, that would actually make me pretty normal, because we all have limitations and shortcomings and things that are undesirable, and people can also be pretty harsh and pretty critical. So it makes sense that I'm going to be on the receiving end of someone's dislike, someone's criticism, someone's disfavor. So we look at that as kind of an access point. But because I'm willing to go towards it, I have some options to say, oh, yep, that fear shows up, and then I remind myself it's pretty normal to be disliked by people. Hopefully not by everyone. Hopefully there's some areas where I'm successful and I use my giftings and people appreciate it. But if I'm brave enough to do that, I'm also going to receive the critical feedback that I'm not some people's cup of tea. But with clients, and when we're allowed to do that in our story, go towards that fear and hold it up and say, oh, that's probably actually true. There are some people that might not like me. What do I want to do with that? There's some people that I annoy. What can I do about that? I can, acknowledge my idiosyncrasies. I can make sure that I look for, consent before I proceed with whatever the new dorky topic is that I'm really excited about. I can make sure that I, create space for other people. I can start engaging strategy when I go towards the fear. If I gridlock at the fear, what if people don't like me? Or what if I do it wrong? Or what if, whatever comes to mind there. When we gridlock there, there's this helplessness that shows up. When I go towards it and say, oh, what if that is true? What if that person did actually mean to hurt me? What if that person doesn't actually care that I have a voice? What if that person actually is dismissing me? I can figure out what's next in my story. But we typically have to go towards the fear. We have to hold the uncomfortableness of it. And then we get to decide, what do I do with that reality? And that's an invitation for many different things that gridlock us. When we go towards it, and in the community of safe people, or safe kind of in our own intrapsychic, when we ask ourselves that question and start to ask about what our options are, that can be really helpful. And over time, that can be really freeing from some of those fears that well up that maybe we haven't yet named.